Let us pray. O Lord our God, by the power of your Spirit, open our hearts to your word, that the words I speak and the thoughts we have might help us to become more truly your people. For we seek to follow Christ. We seek to love Christ. We seek to know Christ. We seek to be Christ in the world. In his name we pray. Amen. Hey, today's passage is a great one. We're continuing this series on the Sermon on the Mount. You know, Jesus started off in Matthew, records for us the very first things that Jesus says we need to know if we're going to follow him. And this is the 7th chapter, verses 1 to 5. Don't judge, do not judge, so that you may not be judged. And for with the judgment that you make, you will be judged, and the measure that you give will be the measure that you get. Why do you see the speck in your neighbor's eye, but you don't notice the log in your own eye? Or how can you say to your neighbor, let me take the speck out of your eye, while there's this log in your own? Oh, you hypocrite. First take the log out of your own eye, and then you'll see clearly to take the speck out of your neighbor's. Oh, goodness gracious. Sometimes I wish Jesus didn't say the things that he did, but I know from experience that this passage in particular has been tremendously helpful to not only me, but to many people that I've known. The passage deals with judgmentalism, but also the flip side of judgmentalism, which is our ministry to other people. They're so closely related. Judgmentalism is ministry gone wrong. Or maybe it's ministry waiting to happen. You see, we all make judgments all the time. And there's a level in which this is kind of a shocking statement because it's almost dumb. Judge not. Well, now, just how far are we going to get in life not judging, huh? Our brains are wired to judge. We make judgments all the time. Now, when I see somebody that's attractive to me, I find myself smiling. My mother taught me not to stare, so I don't, but I do notice. And I just save that smile up inside. How about you? When I see someone being harsh on another, my stomach sort of drops. And I sort of start looking for a way to just go away because I'm not at all sure that I want to be involved. Do you know what I mean? Oh, now most judgments, they produce no harm. In fact, they're helpful. For instance, when somebody says to themselves, gee, I'm getting hungry, that's a judgment about the state of our stomach. And I remember seeing a banana and they go get one. Hey, nobody's hurt, stomach's happier. Lots of judgment is good. It's helpful. We'd just be in trouble if we didn't do it. So why on earth does Jesus say, do not judge? So if we stick with Jesus a little bit, we hear the words, do not judge, lest you be judged. Oh, that's enough to get you thinking, isn't it? It isn't just about judging, because we judge things all the time, but it's the least you be judged. This is judgment not in the sense of wisdom or good common sense. This is judgment in the sense of being judgmental. And if we're judgmental, Jesus reminds us, there's a whole bunch of things that just follow. Jesus does not just give us good advice, and if we take Jesus's teachings and treat them like advice, they lose their power. Here, I'll give you a piece of good advice. You should be nice to people so you have friends in your own need. That's a piece of good advice. You might want to write that out on something and stick it over your computer or the kitchen sink. It's truish. It's short. Would be helpful if we could remember it when we need to, because you want to know when we remember advice? Usually about 5 minutes after we've done it again and we're telling ourselves, now, I know better than that. I, why did I do that? Advice is as often a part of the problem after we've messed up as it is anything that's helpful. It's usually not. Jesus is looking for something deeper. He's looking for us to think about this. This is not obvious and it's not easy. Judge not, lest you be judged. So if somebody judges that I was hungry and wanted to go get a banana, is that a problem? No, not really. So if somebody wants to judge me that way, no problem. But then there are the other ones that are a problem. What happens if somebody says, that's a dreadful haircut? Why on earth did you go? It makes you look like a Marine reject. Now, what happens next? In my world, what happens next is that the person that was just addressed either thinks or sometimes says, you know, your mustache is kind of obnoxious, Charlie. You'd look so much better if you didn't have that silly thing on your face. Yeah, that's what happens. We're critical of another person, they're critical of us. Boom, boom. You want to get frustrated today, just go out and judge 3 or 4 people and you'll have a perfectly miserable day. Promised, guaranteed. This happens all the time, every time. This is not advice. This is a real clear picture of how life actually works. Yep, go ahead. Be as nasty as you want to. Bad day coming up, guaranteed. You probably won't sleep so well tonight either. Jesus was effective with people precisely because he didn't do this. He engaged them rather than drive them away. The second verse he goes on and says, for with the judgment that you make, you will be judged, and the measure you give will be the measure you get. The first half of this verse makes it perfectly clear that we're talking about being judgmental, about being critical, about being mean. The second half is really the golden rule applied to the subject of opinions versus being judgmental. You remember the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Well, judge others the way you want them to judge you, or they're going to judge you the way you do it. And it might not be pretty. Now, how do you want to be judged? You are aware that people judge you, don't you? Aren't you? I know I am. Happens all the time. Look, when I'm judged, I want you to remember that I'm generally good hearted and even lovable. I probably was intending good and no harm. Sometimes I stick my foot in my mouth, but don't we all? Hey, I want you to cut me some slack. I want you to understand, well, there's my upbringing. I didn't have or did have or whatever, what most people have, and on and on. I want you to understand who I am. I want you to be gentle with me. I want you to speak the truth with kindness. You know, Jamie, there might have been a better way to handle this. Been thinking about it. You're right, but it might work better for you if you were to do this instead of that. Hmm. That's how I want to be judged. If you want to be judged kindly, if you want to be judged with understanding and empathy, if you want to be judged kindly, well, it's up to you how you judge other people. That's not advice, that's life. That's the way it works. That's just the way it works. Jesus wants to engage our heads and our hearts on a deeper level to bring about positive change in our life so that we might become more like Him, to prepare us for ministry to the people around us. And so the Bible makes it perfectly clear that being right is not nearly as important as we often think it is, and it's never a license to be mean. A great deal of harm is done by people who are right but mean. And Paul was one of those people. He had a letter from the Sanhedrin to go out and arrest people and bring them back, men, women, and children, have them stoned. Would you say that qualifies as mean? I'd say so. In his letter to the Romans, he writes, "The letter of the law kills. It's the spirit that makes us alive." The letter kills. The spirit is life-giving. I always cry a bit inside when I hear someone say, "Well, they're right." Yeah, yeah, big deal. The Sanhedrin was right. The Old Testament really does say that those who make themselves equal to God have committed blasphemy and should be executed. They were right. Jesus did put himself on the same level with God. And so they were right. 70 out of 72 of them voted to crucify him, and they all knew they were right. And they were, except for one thing. Jesus really was who he said he was. And they just were so busy being right, they didn't see it. Because you see, they were busy being frightened of what the Romans would do if there was a riot. They're busy of worrying about losing their income or losing control or losing this or losing that. They're so tied up in themselves they couldn't see Jesus. And when that happens to us, we can just be as right as rain and as wrong as the Sanhedrin. Because this whole thing about seeing the speck in people's eyes has to do with ministry. It doesn't have to do with how right I am. The question Jesus wants us to ask is, why do we get blind? Why do intelligent, generally good, kind-hearted people like you and me get blind? Why do nice people become hurtful? Why do we so badly overreact at times? Jesus goes on to say, why do you see the speck in your neighbor's eye but don't notice the log in your own? That's a very good question. Now, years of experience have taught many of us, and Paul comments on this in the second chapter of Romans. You want to know who drives us really nuts? Those who remind us of something inside of us that we're uncomfortable with. There's a little bit of us in there, and we wish there weren't. It's like the more focused we are on them, the more focused we can get other people on them and their speck, the more we don't have to look at what's inside of us. Want to follow Jesus? First skill. Remember, these are first things that Jesus says. One of the first skills is you need to learn how to look in the mirror. If they're driving you nuts, what is it in you that's causing you to react so strongly? So I will be there as you uncover it. I will forgive you. I will lead you forward. I will comfort you. I will accept you even though you're aware of your shame. I will bring you into new life every time. Every time. Yeah. When we have the impulse to jump on other people, we need to learn to look in the mirror. Wouldn't the world be a better place if we all did that? Even Livonia, which is not all the world, but it's a part of it. And when we do that, we do good. That's what ministry is all about. And when we don't, we can learn to look in the mirror and begin that process the Bible refers to as sanctification, becoming more holy. Take time to be holy, as the old hymn says. Jesus calls us to be his disciples by coming to terms with our own character flaws, our own sin first. Then we're perfectly positioned to talk to people about theirs, not from some sort of high horse, I'm better than you, and let's everybody look at Sally over there so you don't look at me. To simple, humble humility. There is a fraternity of sinners, and we're all members. And when we're actively members, people get healed, good things happen. So if you want to be effective for Christ, when somebody else is driving you mad, look in the mirror and ask, Lord, is there something there in that person that makes me uncomfortable, something I want to do, something I used to do? I'm a little bit jealous, a little envious. What's going on? What's going on? I was over at West Surefine the other day after work. I've taken a part-time job at CVS in Honeoye, and Surefine's right there. So I was back there, and there were these two women talking, and one of them said, my granddaughter, she just she wears these bikinis, and she just shouldn't. She just shows too much. And I couldn't help but think there was a very critical tone in her voice. Hmm. I wonder what would happen if she were to put on a bikini. I bet she realizes that wouldn't be such a good sight. There might be just a little bit of jealousy at play here. Or maybe she wishes that she was 17 instead of 70 something or 80 something. I'm not sure how old she was, but it sure was not her granddaughter's age. Hmm. Maybe. Maybe when you're upset, maybe when you get critical of other people, there's something to find inside of yourself, to take to Christ, to confess and to work through. And Jesus will be with you. And you have friends in this church. We're family. You don't have to ever do this on your own. And you want to know who works best with people who have issues with anger? People who have issues with anger have come to terms with the fact that I always respond by being angry, and I don't want to act on that. And so I need to find a better way. And maybe there's something that needs healing in me. You want to know who works best with people who are over controlling? Control freaks who have come to understand I am forever trying to fix other people because of all the stuff that needs to be fixed in me. So why don't I start someplace where I can start, namely with me, and maybe there won't be so much to fix next week, and maybe I won't get angry so often. You want to know who who ministers best to people who have problems with drinking, or people who have problems with sex, or people who have problems with eating or gambling, or anything else that they have problems with, or even being shy. People who are shy, people who are all these things, people who've had logs in their eyes that they've allowed Jesus to come and remove. Those are the ministers. And when you are on the other side of whatever it is that upsets you and disturbs you, you are perfectly prepared to talk to people around you. Christ has made you a blessing to other people. It's really as simple as that. And Jesus in love ends this passage with two affirmations. You might have missed it in the words. So I'll give them to you. Jesus says, look, you hypocrite. We need to remember that. You hypocrite. First take the log out of your eye, and then you'll see clearly to take the speck out of your neighbor's eye. Jesus in kindness is saying, you're right. Huh. There is a speck there, and everybody would be better off if it weren't. And your impulse to do something constructive is absolutely right. But here, let me help get rid of this log first. And the reason why you notice those specks, the little things in other people that are big things to you, the reason why you do that, the reason why I do that is my own discomfort. And I don't have to continue to live this way. And that's the best news in the world. Let us pray. O Lord our God, you prepare us to minister to others through the weaknesses in our own life. You're always there, you're always available. You'll always bring people into our life who understand. You'll walk with us through the valley while we're coming to terms with these things, and you will make us a blessing when we're on the other side. We give you thanks in Christ's name. Amen.